Hi guys, Olive here today to bring you my second Young Professional TBR. In the middle of 2016, I made a list of 11 books. I made this list, my first Young Professional TBR, after I had acquired my very first office job. So I wanted a list of books that I thought were going to help me in my career growth. These books were a mix of psychology, general career books, as well as business books specifically related to my field of finance. I have been in this exact same position now for over a year and a half, and I feel that now at this point I have a better understanding of what books will most help me in my career. And I certainly want to add new books to this Young Professional TBR to suit my new goal of career development, not just starting a career. So I have made a new list of 12 books that I am going to attempt to read throughout the course of 2018, and I thought I would share those with you today. The first half of this TBR is going to be composed of more general career books, general psychology books, things that could apply to any field, and then the second half of this TBR will focus more on the books specific to my field of finance. The first book on this list is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. This is a classic manual of how to succeed at war. I am personally of the opinion that life is a battlefield, and to be unprepared is to surrender. So that is why it is on this TBR. The second book on this list is Smarter, Faster, Better: The Secrets of Being Productive in Life and Business by Charles Duhigg. Another book by Charles Duhigg, The Power of Habit, was on my original Young Professional TBR and ended up being one of my favorite nonfiction books of 2016. So when someone brought this book to my attention, I knew I had to read it. This book is less about why we do what we do, which was the focus of The Power of Habit, but instead focuses on 8 different concepts of how we can make ourselves more productive. It claims to draw from neuroscience, psychology, and behavioral economics, which sounds fascinating, and if I love it even half as much as I love The Power of Habit, I know I'm in for a good time. Number 3 on this list is This Is Where You Belong: The Art and Science of Loving the Place You Live by Melody Warnick. As you may know, I live in Pittsburgh, and while I love it here currently, it may surprise you to learn that I didn't love it when we first moved here. It actually took me a large amount of time to learn to love Pittsburgh. Since I have fallen in love with this city, I have found a great amount of happiness here. But even though we are happy here, I don't know that me and my husband will be here forever. So I thought this would be a good book to read in the event that we do end up moving on at some point in the future. I thought that reading this book would be useful in the event that we do end up moving on to a different city in the distant future, but also because I'm assuming that this book talks about how we as people deal with change. Change is never easy, but it is inevitable in one's life. So the better I can learn to cope with it, the better off I will be. The fourth book on this list is The End of Average: How to Succeed in a World That Values Sameness by Todd Rose. This book tackles the notion that there even is such a thing as the average person, and it claims to show how success lies in customizing our individual needs in all aspects of our lives, from the way we mark tests to the medical treatment we receive. Using principles from the science of the individual, it shows how we can break down the average to create individualized success that benefits everyone in the long run. I think this book will be useful in helping me see that neither I nor anyone around me should be striving to fit a one-size-fits-all model. On a somewhat similar note, number 5 on this list is Originals: How Nonconformists Move the World by Adam Grant. In this book, Grant discusses how going against the grain and rejecting conformity can actually improve the status quo. As someone who has always enjoyed marching to the beat of their own drummer, this concept definitely appealed to me, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he applies it to the business world. Number 6 on this list is The Optimism Bias: A Tour of the Irrationally Positive Brain by Tali Sharot. This book examines how our brains are hardwired to look on the bright side, and why this fact may be crucial to human existence. This book also discusses how this mentality affects us at work and in relationships. I like to include these psychology books on my Young Professional TBR because I am of the opinion that the better I can understand humans and the human brain, the better I can work with other people. My number 7 book is the last book in this more general section of my Young Professional TBR, and that is called Mistakes I Made at Work: 25 Influential Women Reflect on What They Got Out of Getting It Wrong, edited by Jessica Bacall. This is a collection of essays written by 25 notable women, including people like Cheryl Strayed, about mistakes they've made in their careers and what they've learned from making them. None of us are immune to making mistakes. Hell, I know I've made my fair share and I've only been in my career for a year and a half. It's how we handle them and what we learn from them that matters. This is probably the book I'm most looking forward to off of this Young Professional TBR because I could certainly use some wisdom. All of the rest of the books are more or less field specific to my field of finance, the first being The Joy of Tax by Richard Murphy. In this book, the author focuses on the bright side of taxes, if you can imagine there is such a thing, and how taxes can shape society if given the chance to do so. I think this book is important for me to read since I see and deal with taxes more in my field than other people might in their fields. And the more I can understand taxes and the theory behind taxation, the better off I'll be in my career. Number 9 on this list is The Lords of Finance, The Bankers Who Broke the World by Liquid Ahmed. This book tells the story of a small group of bankers who made decisions that helped the world spiral into the Great Depression. I studied this period of history at length when I was in college, but considering that we are seeing things happen on the world stage now, currently, that we did at this point in time, I think it's critically important to give myself a refresher. Number 10 is The Big Short, Inside the Doomsday Machine by Michael Lewis. This was adapted into a movie, so you may be familiar with the title, but this tells the story of 4 individuals who were outside of the world of high finance who predicted the housing bubble collapse and credit crunch of 2008. This was also something that I studied in college, and I've always been very interested to read this book, but I think it's very important that I now do so, considering that this is now my field. Another book relating to the financial crisis that I would like to read is Too Big to Fail, the inside story of how Wall Street and Washington fought to save the financial system from crisis and themselves by Andrew Ross Sorkin. As I just mentioned, this book also does discuss the financial crisis, but instead focuses on how the government bailed out Wall Street and big banks. Again, this is a very important one for me to read. And the last book on this second Young Professional TBR is New Ideas from Dead Economists, An Introduction to Modern Economic Thought by Ted Buckles. I took a ton of economics courses in college, and I remember reading sections of this in various different classes. It has always been a book that I've wanted to go back and read through in its entirety. So that was my new list of books that I feel will be helpful in my growth as a young professional. I feel like a lot of these are going to be refreshers of what I learned in college or expand upon the knowledge I gained in college. Since it's been a few years since I graduated, I feel like that's a good idea at this point. If you've read any of these books or heard about any of these books or want to read them yourself, I would love to hear from you down in the comment section below, or if you would like to chat with me somewhere other than YouTube. I am on a variety of different places on social media, and the links to all of my profiles are linked in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.